Hello, internet land. To whoever may be listening to this right now. This is a podcast being pre-recorded. It's not live. Alright, this is Hakeem-Alexander, creator of Hypno-Athletics, Exercising Your Mind, Red Coin Studios, Haiku-Science-Academy, and this song that you're listening to, Gold Magnet. Alright, so if everything goes well, this podcast will be hitting on LinkedIn first, and the reason for that is because for those who don't know, for whatever reasons, you don't care, I'm not prolific enough with my self-promotion, whatever it is. I'm in China, in mainland China, in a wonderful city, the capital of Zhejiang province called Hangzhou. And in mainland China, something else that many people may not know is that there's this firewall that everybody likes to call the Great Firewall of China. If it's not obvious, it's a little play on words about the Great Wall of China. And right now, the VPN, or virtual private network, that I paid for from ExpressVPN is currently having some problems of its own. When you try to log in through your VPN to access websites like Google and any Google products, Facebook, Instagram, things like that, there's a lot of sites that are blocked in China, a lot of censored sites, and you get a message that says, "We are aware of our connectivity issues in China. Please try to connect to Los Angeles 5, Japan 1, Hong Kong 4, and set your proxy to automatic," and things like that. But for the past 3 days, I haven't been able to log into the virtual private network to get access outside of the Great Firewall of China. But this podcast is also called Productivity and Creativity Hacks for Content Creators. Because as I was racking my brain of what to do to get some content out, and since I can't publish anything right now on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr even, there's a lot of sites I just can't put any videos or any content on. So I know that LinkedIn is one of the sites, the few sites that is not blocked in China. And hey, China, they can do whatever they want, right? It's their own sovereign country. They decide that they, for whatever reasons, don't want to make it easy for their citizens to have access to their site. So be it. Hey, I really love being in China, so you know, these are the things that we have to deal with. But what are these productivity and creativity hacks for content creators that I'm talking about? Well, so one of the things, it just occurred to me because it was something that I started doing the other day. And so it has to do with consuming versus producing content. And sometimes it can get a little tricky for us as content creators because let's face it, right? We draw our ideas from a lot of other places as well, right? We get inspired by other people's content. And of course, maybe not all the time. Everybody's on a different part of the spectrum. You know, some of us, you know, get 98% of our inspiration from within, from ourselves. And some of us are on the other end of the spectrum. We get 98% of our inspiration from consuming content from other content creators and people that we look up to and inspire us. And all of that's okay, no matter where you're on the spectrum. This is for perhaps the people who are closer to or around that 98% being inspired by other content creators, and then going to, mishmash and make it your own, and then producing or reproducing content. You know, a lot of times we produce content and we give credit where credit is due, attributions and things like that, edification of our sources. And so maybe this is for those of us who do that, and then also maybe for the few times where the 98% internally inspired people, whenever they tend to turn to outside content for whatever reasons to get inspiration from. So it's a very simple hack, and this is it right here. You know, it's simply just a little change in perspective, and some of you might already do this, but this is what occurred to me the other day when I was getting ready to consume some content. I decided, it's like playing a little game with myself, or like a challenge to myself. I said, it's kind of like a reward system, you know. If I want to really listen to this piece of content, but first I have to create a piece of content of my own. Simple, that's it. You know, that was all this lead up was for. That's it. Is the challenge is, I want to really listen to this piece of content from this creator, from this speaker, from this marketing professional, from this social media celebrity, whatever it is that I want to consume. The challenge is to first produce your own piece of content first. And so it's to get yourself thinking in that way. Because for me, at least, there's a lot of stuff I want to consume. And it's actually a great source of inspiration for me. Is I love watching all and consuming all kinds of content, whether it's reading it, listening to it, watching it, and any combinations of this multimedia. I love consuming stuff. But the challenge is that whenever you get inspired, whenever the idea comes in your head, or if you're browsing the net, you're scrolling through your Facebook feed, your Instagram or whatever, and then all of a sudden you get this urge, you're like, oh, I want to click play or read this, just bookmark it somehow, and then say, I'm going to reward myself, before I consume this piece of content, I'm going to make a piece of content of my own. And that's it. It's a little bit of a challenge. And, you know, a little note on, again, for example, one of the things that I do is I'm a ghostwriter. So I write content for a lot of different websites. And I have to do a lot of research. And something I learned a long time ago from listening to a recording from a teacher named Jim Rohn was he used to say something: study, practice, and teach. And I made that my own. I adopted it and adapted it. And first, here's what I do. I actually added those two terms to his study, practice, and teach to make it my own system. So I'll study something, and then I'll adopt it. You know, like adopting a child. You adopt it. You bring it into your home, your mental home, right? So you study it, then you adopt it, you bring it in, then you practice it, you use it in some way. You take the advice from a podcast like this or a video, whatever, and you put it into action, you practice it. And then you make it your own by adapting it. And then once you adapt it, then you can publish it. And publishing it, you can even do it in this way: make a podcast, make a video, write a blog. That's how you teach it. So study something, adopt it, bring it into your own, practice it, use it in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just writing up a draft that never sees the light of day, and then adopt it to make it completely your own, and then teach it. You teach it somehow, either in a class you give or creating a piece of content. And one of the most important parts of that is the adapting part. You make it your own. Like, one of the things I have to do when I'm ghostwriting is I have to check all of these different sites that check for like plagiarism and things like that. You plug in the article and it shows if it matches content from other sites, so that sometimes as writers we get on and just start writing from off the top of our head, and it's never happened to me, but I've heard it from other writers before that they're like, man, I thought this was my original piece of content, and I put it into this software and it said that this was a line from so and so. Anyway, so that's the hack right there. And this is another hack that I did myself because I was a little frustrated about not being able to get content out to all of the other social media sites that are blocked here in China through the Great Firewall. So I decided to make this piece of content and just talk about this idea. And one of the cool things I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, if all goes well, it's going to hit LinkedIn in just a little bit here. I like the retro feel, so I have like this player that one of them shows like a record player, like vinyl, and another one is cassette tapes. So I'm gonna make a video of this podcast audio, and then I'm going to, and the video is just going to be the cassette or the record rolling, just to give some visual fun, little nostalgia. It's cool. I don't know why it really fascinates me. Simple things fascinate me. So I just like actually watching the tape roll while I'm speaking. I think it's fun. So, all right. So remember, the creativity productivity hack for content creators is simply a reward system. Before you consume some content that you want to consume, you produce a piece of content yourself. It could be a quick 1 minute to 5 minute piece of content, or a 15 minute to an hour piece of content. Some of us might want to do the quicker side of it so we can get to that piece of content that we want. And maybe even for every single piece of content that you want, don't go on a marathon. You create one piece of content for yourself and then you go on a marathon of like 15 hours of consuming other content. For every piece of content that you want to consume, you produce one of your own. And that's a good motivator for creating content. And like maybe even if it's like one piece of content that's long, you can break it into like if it's an hour long, for example, you can break it into 6 pieces of 10 minutes long. And so then you create, for every 10 minutes you watch, you create 6 pieces of content for yourself. All right, let's ride it out here, everybody. This is a little piece of rare earth metals for you. Let's get to creating that content. Be well. This is Hakeem-Alexander, Hypno Athletics, Haiku Science Academy, and Red Coin Studios.